So welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our lecture series called Daily News in Shorts. In this lecture series, we cover a particular day's current affairs in a short span of time within 30 minutes. Now, needless to say this, you have to revise this lecture just after watching it because just watching it would be job half done. These current affairs, you'll quickly forget. So you have to solidify them in your memory, and that can be done if you revise them regularly. Okay? Now, you can revise these current affairs from the notes provided by us, and these notes are shared on our Telegram channel. The link to our Telegram channel is provided in the comment section below. Okay, so you've got these details. Now let's straight away jump into the lecture. Okay, but first let's take a look at the list of topics. So let's begin. So daily current affairs, 19th of November, Wednesday, and here is the topics list. Well, we have seen record low numbers of inflation, and there are various factors behind it, particularly base effect. So this topic is included in today's lecture to explain to you what is this base effect. Okay, so we'll talk about this. Then, well, India is suffering and suffering hugely as far as air pollution is concerned. At one point of time, China was also suffering from that back in 2010, 8, 9. How did China tackle air pollution? We have some lessons to learn. So we'll talk about this. Then, well, international team of researchers are studying how Kerala's fishermen are using dolphins for fishing. Okay, there is a symbiotic sort of relationship between dolphins and fishermen to catch more fish. So we'll talk about this. Then you all know Trump gave a peace plan for Gaza. United Nations Security Council has approved that peace plan. So we'll talk about this and certain criticisms of this peace plan. And in the end, we'll talk about Cambridge Word of the Year. The word of the year is parasocial. So what is parasocial? How deep its meaning is? Because recently Cambridge actually updated the meaning of parasocial, this word. So we'll talk about this. Okay. So these are the 5 topics. Let's start discussing them one by one, starting with topic number 1, and that is record low inflation. You know, it has been quite some time, like a lot of years, when someone saw this in the newspaper that inflation is around 0.8, 0.7%. But that's what people saw in the as far as inflation is concerned for the month of October. Inflation is at record lows. It's less than even 1%. Now, how did this happen? Well, there are various reasons behind it, okay? But there is one particular reason which says that yes, inflation appears very less, but it's not actually that less. So it appears less, but it's not that low, okay? And that particular factor is called base effect. It is because of base effect that we are seeing such low numbers, okay? So we'll try to understand what this base effect is and what are the other reasons why inflation is so low, okay? All right then. So record low inflation. So what was in the news? India's CPI inflation rate fell to a record low of 0.25% in October, not 0.8, 0.25%, remaining below RBI's medium-term target of 4%. RBI's target is 4%, but inflation is 0.25%. Okay. Now, what are the reasons behind this? Well, GST rate cuts, because government has reduced GST on many items. Well, things have become cheap. Okay, because less GST is there. Then there is this major factor called base effect. We'll investigate what base effect is, okay, very clearly. And then volatile gold and silver prices. As you all know, gold and silver prices are skyrocketing. They have somehow increased inflation. If gold prices were low, inflation would have been in negative territory. Okay, so we'll talk about the impact of gold and silver prices as well. But first, let's talk about the most important thing, and that is base effect. So what is base effect? Let me explain base effect with the help of an example. Okay, you all know how inflation is measured. It is measured in percentages, right? So when you say that in the previous year the prices were 100 and today the prices are 150, then inflation is 50%. You all know about this. That's how we measure it. Okay, now pay close attention on this example and you will understand base effect. Okay, let's talk about 3 years, 2023, 2024 and 2025. Okay, and let's talk about 2 scenarios. Okay, scenario 1, scenario 2. Okay, there are 2 scenarios, 2 hypothetical situations. Okay, let's suppose the prices for the month, the prices in 2023 were 100. In 2024, they became 150. And in 2025, they became 200. Simple. So in the year of 2024, the prices increased from 100 to 150. We'll say inflation is 50%. In 2025, prices increased from 150 to 200. How will we calculate this inflation? Increase in prices is 50 from 150. We'll calculate this percentage. What will this come out to be? Well, inflation for the year 2025 is 33%, right? Because we calculate inflation in percentages. Simple. Now let's suppose there is this another scenario where prices in 2023 were 100, okay, but they increased very feebly in 2024. Prices reached 110 and then they increased to 200. Okay, prices were, or I'll give you the flip example, okay, because we have to understand low base effect first. So let's suppose the prices skyrocketed in 2024. They reached 190, not 150, 190. And then they reached 200. Okay. Now for 2024 in this scenario, the inflation would be 90%. Okay. And if we compare this with the 190, okay, for the month of, for the year of 2025, prices increased from 190 to 200. So it would be 10 divided by 190 into 100, right? So this would somehow amount to 4 to 5%. Okay, let's say 4.6%. So can you see, previous year inflation was 90%. This year inflation is 4.6%. But the prices have reached 200 in both scenarios. Yet it appears that the inflation has fell dramatically in 2025 in scenario 2. We can say this. Yes, the prices are equal in both cases. Inflation has reached 200 in both cases. But when we compare the inflation percentage, in one case it is 33%, in another case it is 4.6%, very low. Why? Because in the previous year, 2024, prices rose so spectacularly, okay? Or from 2023 to 24, prices rose so spectacularly that in comparison to 190, this increase appears modest when we compare or when we calculate the percentage. So inflation is same for 2 years, okay? But in percentage terms, it appears to be less because previous year in 2024, prices were very high. This is known as high base effect. High base effect makes your inflation numbers appear low. It is also known as favorable base effect. Okay, so high base effect makes your inflation numbers appear low. Yes, this is what has happened in October this year. Okay, it is because of high base effect or favorable base effect that inflation has reached 0.25%. Okay, so now you understand high base effect. Similarly, there can be a scenario 3 also where it is 100 to 110 and finally 200. Okay, so in first case the inflation was 10%, but in this case the inflation comes out to be around 80%, close to 80%. So one might say that inflation rose spectacularly high, but the prices are 200 here also. It's just that in comparison to 110, this appears high in percentages. This is low base effect. Low base effect actually increases your inflation percentages. Simple? Yes. So this was seen, high base effect, favorable base effect was seen, because of which we have reached these inflation numbers. I hope you understood high base effect, low base effect. It happens in GDP also, GDP growth rate. But remember this for inflation. Clear? Now, what happened? So favorable base effect occurs if last year prices were high. Okay, high base effect. In October 2025, the base effect was highly favorable, reducing CPI inflation by 1.33%. Okay, the effect will reverse. Though this effect will reverse by November and January, that's what the calculation of RBI says. But for the month of October, there was such a high base effect that the inflation fell to 0.25%. Okay, October's favorable base cut consumer food price index also. So if we only calculate food inflation, that was also reduced. When we calculate overall food inflation, it was 0.25%. But when we calculate food inflation alone, it was minus 5%. Minus 5%. So in terms of food also, there was very high base effect. This is what base effect is. But there were other factors as well. Okay. So GST rate cuts. GST rate cuts effective from September contributed to lower prices across several consumer goods, okay? Because GST is cut, so the final price is also low. So this contributed to low inflation. Gold, silver somehow saved inflation from getting into the negative territory, okay? Now, these are the two scenarios that we can see in future. Global commodity prices, global prices of iron, copper, crude oil, they can rise in future and increase inflation further. Plus, the impact of GST is only short term. This reduced inflation because of GST rate cuts is only short term. Prices will get back on track. Gold, silver will further contribute to increased inflation. This is the whole scenario. But the whole idea for including this article in today's discussion was to make you understand what base effect is. I hope you understood. High base effect causes low inflation, low base effect causes high inflation. Okay, and high base is also called favorable base effect. I hope you understood this. Okay, all right, because questions can be asked. Okay, now let's quickly shift our focus to second news item: how China tackled air pollution. You know, the entire world is laughing at us when it comes to air pollution. Seriously, they are. Because they are laughing at the fact that how can Indians live in such a poor air quality, especially urban Indians. But there was a time when the world was laughing at China also. Back in 2008, when China was conducting or was preparing for Beijing Olympics, well, many athletes at one point of time were thinking whether they should go and participate in Beijing Olympics or not, because Beijing's air quality was extremely poor. Okay, China had to industrialize fast to catch up with America and Europe. It had to industrialize fast for its growth. And that rapid industrial growth definitely has an impact on your air quality. That happened with China. Currently, the same situation is happening with India. India also wants to rapidly industrialize, but this has a negative consequence on air quality. Now, China was once in that position, but after 2013, China took some very, very crucial steps, because of which, though China is still far behind Western countries, yet its air quality is still way better than India's. So we can learn something from China, because China was also in a similar position. We can learn some things from China, and there were certain things that worked for China but won't work for India. So we will be conscious of those things as well. That yes, China did this, but this won't work in India, right? So we should learn the Chinese model. And that's what is conveyed in this article. So let's talk about this quickly, okay? How China tackled air pollution. So what was in the news? India's current pollution levels comparable to China's late 2000s particulate matter 2.5 levels with similar health and economic burdens. Okay, we are at the same situation. Pollution remains high year-round in cities like Mumbai and Delhi due to industrial and vehicular emissions. China's historical severe air pollution and subsequent progress offers valuable lessons for India. So first, let's talk about what was China's strategy, what was Chinese model. Okay, first of all, China is very good at strictly enforcing rules. Once the top party has made the rule, Chinese Communist Party has made the rule, it has to be followed. So stringent enforcement. Enforcement of green norms via cadre evaluation system. All the members of Communist Party of China, their promotions, their performance was measured how they were doing in environmental terms also. Okay, holding officials accountable based on environmental performance. So this was there. So officials were scared. Abandon old systems. So shutting down outdated, heavily polluting industrial units such as power plants, smelters, chemical and paper plants was central strategy. Polluting industries were shut down. Investment in new technologies. Increase investment in pollution control technologies plus increase investment in EVs. China is a global leader in terms of electric vehicles. Shenzhen fully electrified its bus fleet. Other major cities like Shanghai also followed this trend. And electric vehicles, passenger electric vehicles are ruling the world. Chinese passenger electric vehicles. Okay, so this was, long story cut short, their strategy in brief. Okay, now lessons for India. Okay, India and China introduced environmental legislation in 1980s. Both India and China made laws for environment in 1980s and air quality programs in 2010s. If China launched an air quality program in 2010, so did India. But China succeeded, India failed. Why? First of all, Indian flaw. India, for example, India's graded response action plan. It is localized. Certain pollution control programs in India are localized. Like GRAP works only for NCR. Plus, it is reactive. It is not preventive. Okay. It is not a long-term sustained strategy. It kicks in when pollution is there. It kicks in when air quality deteriorates. There should be a long-term consistent strategy, which India lacks. Then, another missing factor in India's strategy was, well, lack of political will and financial resource prioritization towards air quality. Very few financial resources, governmental resources were diverted towards air quality because it was not that big of a priority as it was in case of China. For China, it was a huge priority. Then, effective accountability mechanisms linking high level standards to facility level pollution control. Okay, yes, lack of accountability. Whereas in China, well, every political official, government official was taken to task if they didn't work for the environment. Okay, pollution control. So lack of accountability. Now, the thing is that this strategy worked in China, but there is a big chance that it won't work in India because India has some unique challenges which were not there for China. For example, household biomass burning. For cooking, unlike China, LPG subsidy helps, but more access to affordable clean fuels needed. Okay, LPG cylinders are given, but well, not everyone has this. So there is household biomass burning. Unequal access to electricity constrains scaling down of polluting power plants, which China did. Okay, India's tiered governance with overlapping jurisdiction contrasts with China's unitary system. If the top body has given an order, it will be followed till the end. That is not the case with India. If center has given an order, states have their own systems, panchayats have their own systems. So that is a problem. Basically, long story cut short, India is a democracy after all. China, well, kind of, it's a dictatorship, party dictatorship. Okay? Yet, the thing is that we are all lauding China. China is great. China has done really well for air quality, but there were some failures in Chinese policy also. What were those failures? First of all, top-down approach rarely works. Top-down pressure sometimes leads to falsified pollution data because all these officials were scared that they are accountable. They sometimes falsified data also about air quality. This was there. Increased coal production. There are power shortages in China because China is quickly shifting to renewable energy, and renewable energy is not all that reliable. So they have again started coal production. Then it is still behind Western countries. Yes, it has improved air quality, but it is still behind Western countries. Plus, India has a better system. How? One thing India has better, and that is, well, Chinese Communist Party takes care of everything. All decisions are taken over there. But in India, public also participates. Like recently, public filed PILs, okay, public interest litigation in courts. So courts were involved, judiciary was involved, citizenry was involved. We have more active judicial and public participation. So this is missing in China. So we can use it, leverage it. Clear? That's about it. Though in your notes, some recommendations are also given what India should do next. Just do read that as well. And we shall quickly shift our focus to third news item, and that is dolphin-assisted fishing. Now, an international team of researchers are going to go to Kerala to study a particular category of fishermen in Kerala. These fishermen actually catch fishes using the actions of dolphins in their lakes, backwaters. Okay. Now, this is known as dolphin-assisted fishing. How does it work? If a proper study is done on this entire system, well, we'll get so much more information how humans can work in sync with nature without destroying nature and also developing themselves. This is a very good path of sustainable development. That is why a study is being commissioned into this process. So let's quickly talk about this, okay? So dolphin-assisted fishing. So an international project, the ecology and evolution of cultural and cooperative behavior among dolphins and humans, is underway till 2028. The study aims to understand the ecological and behavioral mechanisms underlying unique cooperation observed between wild dolphins and traditional fishers in Ashtamudi Lake in Kollam, Kerala. Okay, now about this system, how do these fishermen use dolphins? Dolphin assistance. So dolphins hunt mullet fishes. Okay, so they chase mullet fishes. When they chase mullet fishes, they chase them to the shore. So the fishes are running. Okay, they chase them to the coastline. At that coastline, fishermen are sitting with their nets. So fishermen cast their nets in sync with dolphin movements, leading to improved fish catch. The system is beneficial for both dolphins and fishermen. Okay, now this was first scientifically documented in 2012, and now researchers want to study it properly. Okay, a similar system is also followed in Brazil. It's not unique to Kerala, and even Myanmar. Okay. Now, that's all you need to know as far as this news is concerned. But we need to talk about these dolphins. Are these dolphins threatened? Okay, threatened with extinction. What are we doing to protect them? Let's talk about these dolphins that are found near the coastline of Kerala. Okay, so conservation. Kerala coast is home to 8 dolphin species, and the most notable one is humpback dolphin, Indian Ocean humpback dolphin. These dolphins inhabit shallow coastal waters and estuaries, so shallow waters, not deep oceans, like Ashtamudi Lake. The Indian Ocean humpback dolphin is endangered and protected under Schedule 1, the highest protection that Indian government can give, of Wildlife Protection Act. Preservation of dolphin habitats and traditional fishing practices is essential for sustaining this unique symbiosis. Okay? Because we should work with nature, not against nature. And that's what these fishermen are doing. And we can learn a lot from that. Okay? So that's the purpose of the research. All right? Okay then. Let's quickly shift our focus to next news item, and that is United Nations Security Council adopts Trump's Gaza peace plan. Now, Trump revealed his Gaza peace plan, announcing a ceasefire between Hamas and Israel Defense Forces. Okay, then we discussed the peace plan proposed by Trump. We have discussed it in detail. Recently, United Nations Security Council has formally adopted this peace plan. So, what are the key features of this peace plan? Okay, Gaza peace plan, and why are some people criticizing it? Let's talk about all these things. Okay, very quickly. So, UNSC adopts Trump's Gaza plan. So, UNSC adopted US President Donald Trump's 20-point peace plan for Gaza. The plan aims to address the conflict by establishing new governance. Okay, now Hamas won't rule Gaza Strip. A new system would be established, and new security forces would be stationed there. Okay, no soldiers. This new security force would come there. Now, some key features of this peace plan, which are controversial also. Okay, key features. First of all, the entire region of Gaza Strip will be governed by Board of Peace. This Board of Peace will be chaired by Trump. This board will be responsible for Gaza's reconstruction and economic revival. Under this board, to ensure security, there will be International Stabilization Force, proposed as the long-term internal security force to prevent arms smuggling and facilitate secure goods flow. This ISF will work under Board of Peace, not United Nations, Board of Peace. Okay. This ISF will have soldiers from, different countries. Different countries will contribute soldiers towards this ISF. Let's see which countries are ready to contribute. Okay. Then, Palestine would be governed by a technocratic Palestinian committee. So, a Palestinian committee would be formed. In that Palestinian committee, there won't be any politicians. Technical people would be there. Experts would be there who will govern Palestine. An apolitical body responsible for temporary transitional governance and municipal administration in Gaza. Plus, this 20-point peace plan also says one more thing, which gives hope to Palestinians. It says that in the long term, eventually, Palestine can achieve statehood, can become an individual country. Includes a conditional pathway to Palestinian self-determination and statehood dependent on reforms of Palestinian Authority and progress in rebuilding Gaza. If all of this goes well, if everyone is behaving well, then eventually we can give statehood to Palestine also. This is what is said. Now, it is being criticized by both sides. First of all, in Israel, the right-wing Israel is criticizing this peace deal. Why? They are criticizing because of this provision. They are saying that we will never give statehood to Palestine. This is Israel from river to the sea. Israel is ours. That's what they say. Okay. So this is there. Then, Hamas objects to this international stabilization force. They say that you are disarming us and bringing a new force. That is wrong. Okay. And many people say that the solution to this matter is political. How can you allow a transitional government to administration to be apolitical? This is another criticism. Yet many people are supporting it. And why are they supporting it? They are saying very simply that at least something was done. Otherwise, both sides were fighting and there were so many deaths and destruction. Okay. So at least there is some beginning. Yes, there are some problems in this peace plan, but we will fine-tune that or resolve that later. At least this plan has stopped fighting. So this is one good point about this plan. Otherwise, there are criticisms. Okay, let's see what happens in future. All right. And now let's move on to our last news item, and that is Cambridge's Word of the Year. Now, Cambridge declares Word of the Year every year. This year, Cambridge has declared a word called parasocial to be Word of the Year. And why? Well, the word parasocial was coined in 1950s. Okay, And it means one-sided relationship, one-sided bond, one-sided love, like many fans have with their celebrities. Celebrities don't even know about them, but fans have this intense one-sided bond with their celebrities, and this is completely one-sided. Yes, this is known as parasocial relationship or parasocial behavior. It's not completely social because social is two-way. Parasocial is bordering social. It's just one way. You have never even met your favorite actor, yet you have this intense bond with that actor because you follow him dearly. Okay. Now, why is this declared word of the year in 2025? Because recently Cambridge Dictionary has updated the meaning of this word. With the rise of AI and with the rise of AI chatbots, these days, people are developing intense feelings for these chatbots also. AI girlfriends, AI boyfriends, AI fathers, all these AI agents are cropping up. And people are developing this relationship with this artificial machine. Okay? So, the relationship humans are experiencing with AI, that has also been included in the meaning of this word parasocial. That's what the update was all about in Cambridge Dictionary. Okay, and that is why Cambridge has called it Word of the Year. So let's quickly talk about this. Okay, so Cambridge Word of the Year. So Cambridge Dictionary has crowned parasocial Word of the Year, pointing to an increased interest in the term this year and tying it to the rise in popularity of AI. Cambridge updated the definition of parasocial in September 2025 to include the possibility of a relationship with AI. So about the word, meaning is refers to one-sided relationship where person feels a connection to media personality or character, even a fictional character like Batman, that is also parasocial, but lacks mutual interaction, no mutual interaction, yet intense love. The etymology, what is the root of this word? The word combines social with Greek prefix para, meaning closely resembling or almost. So para is a Greek word for almost, so almost social. Okay. It was coined by sociologists Donald Horton and Richard Wohl in 1956 to describe seeming face-to-face relationship between spectators and performers. Okay, celebrities, sportsmen and their fans, and eventually then comic book characters and their fans, and now AI chatbots and people. Okay, now this new relationship with AI has certain psychological and sociological implications. Okay, by the way, parasocial relationships are illusory, one-sided bonds with belief of intimately knowing celebrities or fictional characters. You think you know your favorite actor intimately. That is not the case. Extends to extreme political and ideological alignments. People who align themselves to an extreme ideology, extremely, that is also parasocial. You are extremely a communist, parasocial. Okay, extremely a right-winger, parasocial. Okay, now psychological implications. Impact. So negative consequences. Risks emerge when parasocial interactions replace real human connections, potentially increasing loneliness and mental health issues. In fact, WHO says that 1 out of 6 people in the world suffer from loneliness and really suffer. Okay. But there are some positive impacts also of parasocial behavior. In fact, it helps children learn. If the comic books are designed to be educational, well, children can learn by developing a relationship with their favorite comic book character. Supports adolescent identity formation, fosters real community with shared interest groups. Okay, but it should stop there. When it becomes even more intense, that's where problems start to begin. Now, what is the way forward? Calls for guardrails in AI development to ensure chatbots do not supplant human contact, and there should be a public movement also, and public awareness generation also. There should be a social movement to prevent people from developing this kind of relationship, human-like relationship with AI, because that is not healthy. Okay. And that would be all. With that, we conclude today's session. So thank you so much for watching, everyone. And I'm sure it has added value to your preparation. But it will add more value if you revise this lecture. Please do not forget to do that. And I shall see you next time with another set of news items. Thank you, everyone.